Greetings,
Give it a
readers and
minute.
travelers, and welcome to another episode of Stats on Stats. My name is Richie Stevens, and today we are going to be talking about a little series that I absolutely adore called The Apocosmos by Dimitrios Gkirgkiris. And joining us today for the very first time is the author himself. Dimitrios, how are you today?
Hello, I'm great. I just finished writing for the day and it was a good day.
All right, we love to hear it because you are actually across the pond from us over in the UK, Europe area. So
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say UK. I meant Europe in general. My apologies there.
They're not part of Europe anymore,
Oh,
apparently.
okay. Apparently, I'm very behind on my history and uh, world area. But before I start babbling like an idiot, as always, I am joined by my co-host, and it's not as always because he's missed the past few episodes. But Mr. Joel Harvey. Joel, how we doing, buddy?
Hi, I am doing fantastic. I'm ready for this show. So let's get into it.
We are getting into it now. Demetrius, I've already shown you, but I'm going to show the audience as well, just because I absolutely love this series. I have all the paperbacks, and this is actually kind of heavy, specifically just because book 3 is so massive, and it makes sense with having the dwarf on the front cover, because shout out to Rory. He's my favorite, other than Louie, even though Louie doesn't want to help the stray cats. That's fine. That's fine. He just wants the dogs. That's okay. But Demetrius, tell us a little bit about the Apocosmos.
Yeah, so I started writing this series. I thought that like an urban fantasy approach would be nice, and I wanted to create a system where the lit RPG system and the world coexist, kind of like how muggles exist in the Harry Potter universe, or wizards exist in our universe, I guess. And so I wanted to split that between the cosmos and the apocosmos, and I wanted there to be a very clear way of how you can cross from our world to theirs, so that people who think about the story, they can really like envision themselves of being part of the story and how they could be involved. I mean, there were so many things that I wanted to say and write about with that series, about friendship, about anger management issues, about all these things, and having like a world where you can create and or maybe pull one of two things from mythology and tradition. I thought it would be a good way to do that. A good, let's say, canvas to do that.
It's definitely a good way because obviously there's a spinoff series for the Apocosmos for I Am Zeus, where it follows the Greek god Zeus, which we love Zeus here. I've read the first book and the second book, so Aphrodite and Artemis. Yes,
Yeah.
and I haven't picked up Hera yet. I need to. I need to go back and finish it out because it's a fun read. Even with it being a harem, that doesn't bother me because, as
Yeah.
Joel will tell you, I enjoy harems every once in a while. But it's more I'm like interested in the universe and the lore that you have created surrounding these characters. Heck, if there was one for Odin, I would read that in a heartbeat. Just
Yeah.
because Norse mythology is my go-to.
I
But
I think it's my favorite too, but I try to. There would be so many inconsistencies, or like I would make so many mistakes. It's just easier to write about Greek mythology, because who's gonna tell me I'm wrong? No,
right.
I'm from Greece, so probably I know better. I don't, but
Well, and that was actually I was getting ready to bring it up. On top of that is not only have you written the Apocosmos, but you have another new series out called Physics of the Apocalypse, which I read the first book. Great job, absolutely fantastic. And then you have a short story following Louis in the Get Good anthology, which I
yeah.
think I picked that one up specifically for your story, Ben's story, David J. Bushman's story, and oh my god, there was another few in there. I am drawing a blank on it. So I was excited to see more of the universes that you guys have created with those short stories. And then you have another series called The Boy Who Killed God, which is a part of the Apocosmos universe
Uh,
or
it is set in that no system.
Hmm.
So there is no connection between the stories. It just uses that same system. It's just a way that people can easily jump into the story, and you don't have to explain everything from the beginning again. It's more of a fantasy, young adult series, I would say. But that was the very first story that I ever wrote. So there are certain things that I would change. And I mean, the first of anything is bound to be bad, right? That's where you learn, and there are some flaws in that story. But while I was writing it, I was thinking of the system of the Apocosmos, and like a lot of the things, while I was thinking that I was writing, clean fantasy, there were magic items, there were gaining new powers, and all those things, which was essentially I was just not writing the stats because I thought I was writing clean fantasy. So this is why it was, just like a couple of hours adaptation in order to include it in the universe, because essentially I was using the same blueprint and the same world building, just without numbers in that story. But yeah, like I said, it was the first my first time writing. So yeah.
I've not read that one, but I am excited to get into it. Don't, but so I mean, my to be read list has like just increasingly grown. I did the beta reading for Blight Leech by Ben, which is another Apocosmos book. Same universe, just follows different characters, has the same system, all that stuff. Because the Apocosmos is that multiverse where with realms and everything. I love the system. But speaking of system, because there's a person on this show who absolutely loves mechanics and system, Mr. Joel Harvey, do you have any questions or comments about the system? Because I know that's your forte.
Well, I mean, if we're getting into the system, I so mostly what I like about mechanics is when there's something like uh new ways that like magic systems work, or um like classes and all sorts of that like nitty gritty like stuff that people come up with. But I mean, for me, like I feel like Apocacosmos did a lot more of like based on mythology and like D&D and like uh Tolkien. So it plays more on that like nostalgia aspect.
Mhm.
Like he definitely mentions like Castlevania and like all this other stuff that you definitely get that like nostalgia hit from. Um so as far as like mechanics, there wasn't too much that really caught my attention. I did really enjoy the dark energy market system that he created. Um and I love the conflict that he has figuring that out and like doing business in his like arrow market. Um, I just love it when characters like do business well, because I feel like I'm completely ignorant in like that aspect. Like I could not like look at uh whatever like a page of trades and be like, oh, I need to buy a bunch of arrows and sell them or something.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's much easier when you're writing the book and you control the outcome, right? Because
yeah,
then you decide if the character is successful or not. As for the system, yeah, it's not. I feel that it's a pretty basic system, and basic. Like I don't want to be to downplay it. It's like there is a lot of complexity in it, and I think I would not have been able to manage something that is, I don't know, like a very hard magic system that was complex, and then also be able to grow it as much as I did with this series, and like in general, like having many classes, each class being able to upgrade, and then each class has different skills, and all those things. I don't think I would have been able to manage it, and even like at the I think in the final book of the series, it was already getting too much. Like whenever there was a level up or whenever there was a battle, I had to have many windows open just so that okay, yeah, he can use this, he can use that. Because at some point somebody would think, why didn't he use this? This would have been a much better option. And
Yeah.
it was too much. So hopefully I did not get too ambitious, let's say in the beginning, it was a little bit more streamlined, and at least in terms of progress of the characters over time.
Yeah, I definitely. So I've only read up to like most of the way through book 2, which I'll talk about the part that I kind of left off on in a little bit. But yeah, so I get like the hints of like, oh, this Apocacosmos is incredibly vast, and we get like hints about that. Um, and we probably see like he goes through dungeons, which is interesting. He has that uh fighting in the arena whenever he flashes forward. Um
But
yeah.
I have a lot to say when it comes to the story and character development. So
Okay, one question I do want to ask is so you tend to have your like main characters tell the story themselves. So like what led you to that like writing style?
Um, I think it's easier to convey the emotions and like the thinking behind the character. And it's not like I'm married to this like to first person writing. The series that I'm writing now is you do not get to oh, well, I'm not even sure if it is like that. Anyway, so it's easier to connect with the readers on what the character is doing exactly, giving their thoughts, giving their state of mind. I think it is easier to communicate what you're trying to say, and there are certain things that can be not misinterpreted, but more like maybe there is a very strong scene that it's going to be emotional, and you just can't portray it easily if it's not in first person. And like, but also like I
That's
like
fair.
think these things are a little fluid, you know. This time I act this way, maybe tomorrow I will try something different. And I feel that this is a healthy approach to writing because this is a faster way to get better in your craft.
That
so
makes sense.
It's
so
not a it's never a black and white answer, is it?
So before I dive into my thing, because I want to make sure I don't bring up a certain scene, because I think it's what Joel's talking about. Joel, is the scene you're wanting to bring up where you left off what you yelled at me for?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Yes, I
All right. Cool.
did
I
yell
just
at
want to make
Richie for
sure.
this.
I just want to make sure before we get into emotional trauma here. Um, so
So one thing that Richie does he loves is emotional trauma in his books that he reads.
okay, it adds
So
character
he has been
development.
touting this series to me for a while now.
So
Uh,
hold on
go ahead.
before you attack me, because I'm not bringing up that scene just yet, because I have to build up to it. Damn, Joel. Damn, because there's a lot that goes into that specific scene. And even through the rest of the series, there's still a lot. I so one of my favorite things is character development and seeing like how the character gets from point A to point B. So obviously with Alex telling the story around the the campsite around the arena and everything, as each person's being pulled to go talk to oh my, I just looked at the thing. Yalfred comes and drags him off to, it starts with a D. Is it the Dominius?
Dominos.
Domino's, thank you.
Yeah.
Um
So just a little point. There may be questions that I do not remember the answers to because I have not touched that story for so long, and I'm like very deep into the series that I'm writing now. Just so you know.
You are good. No, if you don't remember, that is 100% fine. Because obviously I'm spacing on it, even though I was just rereading the series, and I'm already halfway through King again. It's just there was so much, like I was excited and just weary on how Alex got from Earth to this arena, and how he's pretty much seen as like this wise old storyteller, berserker. And I mean, they refer to him as berserker in the very beginning when Yalfric's coming around and he's like, oh, just tell your stories and like all that other stuff. So seeing how he went from being on Earth and seeing events unfold just to get him from point A to point B, I look for all of the details. I look for, oh, if he would have done this different, something might have else have happened. Oh, if he would have done this, then this would have happened. So, first off, thank you for that, because that pulled me in instantly. Because they always say, don't judge a book by its cover. I judged a book by its cover. I saw a dude with 2 swords and braids with a corgi behind him. I'm looking at this book. So I fell in love, and then obviously I got a code for Magus when book 2 came out, because that's actually how I first interacted with you. Was I just was like, oh yeah, I would love it, and then you sent me a message, and we got it to, I got to redeem the code and everything, and I powered through that book I think within a day. So Alex's character is really cool. Has a lot of stuff has happened to Alex. And when we first meet him, he's kind of, just like, I just want to go to work, go home, go to the gym, play games. That's really it. Spend time with Louie. And then we learn, girlfriend dies. Girlfriend was actually the original owner of Louie. Louie was her dog. Which, ow. Hurts.
Yeah.
Hurts. So that's one thing. Joel, I'm surprised you didn't bring up a certain item when it comes to the system. Louie's item.
What? His like spell book?
No, the item that like an ability, like that gives Louie the ability to talk and communicate with Alex. Like that system, and like that part of the system, like I'm surprised you didn't bring that up.
How they like explore the Fey realms
and
yeah, they talk
the
with
spell that's used to and obviously the chapter, I love the title of the chapter, I want to be your dog. It's just like, it's cute, and I love Louie.
All of the chapter titles songs that I like, most of them are metal. I don't know if I don't know if I mentioned it in any of the books, but that is the case for all of them. That's why many of them do not make sense. I just like the song.
Oh no, it's good. I like the songs. No, everything. I don't have like really any flaws within the series. This series is in my top 5. Like the completed series is in my top 5. Like I love this series.
I was thinking that we'd be talking about the book. I was not expecting so many compliments. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. And I mean, you can ask Zeckler, or Derek Atwater, whatever you see him as in the groups. He's one of our mods here. He will tell you I love this series. When I bought these the paperback copies, because I had all the Kindle versions. I bought the paperback copies last year as like a birthday to myself. And when that box came in, like, it was heavy. And Joel asked me, he was like, dude, what did you order? I was like, books. Just books. And I pulled out, like, 7 different books, because I got the entire series of Apocosmos and 2 others.
Yeah.
And I mean, anytime someone like asks me, they're like, "Hey, what's a good like entry point to lit RPG?" One of my first answers is Apocosmos, just because I'm like, if you're looking for something that takes place on Earth but has like it explores like different multiversal or different parallels. Like if you want to see like a dwarven mountain in Scotland, then definitely choose Apocosmos because it's good. It's a fun story, and it prepares you for the different like ways of going. And I obviously will bring him in, show him my collection, open up the book, and show him the stat sheets too. So it's like, okay, so he's received this item. Here's the stats for it. Here's the description. The way you do the stats and descriptions for items is by far one of my favorites because you actually go into detail about these certain items and everything. Where in some lit RPGs, it's just like, oh, stats, it does this. That's it.
Yeah, I try to have so you cannot avoid magic items and stats and all that. So it would either have to be something very short and sweet, or it would have to be something that adds to the world. And since at that point in time, I really enjoyed world building. I thought that hey, maybe every item can have a description that contributes to the world. So this
Mm-hmm.
is coming from this area. This was crafted by this person. So maybe this person who crafted this item does not have a story of their own in my head, but it creates this feeling that the world is larger than what you're seeing, and that things existed before the story started, and things will continue existing after the story ends.
Okay. So I do have a question for you, and if you don't have an answer, that is 100% fine. How did you decide, like, who is going to be a part of the Apocosmos before Alex joins it? Because obviously Alex joins it by getting assaulted by three guys in suits and everything, kind of rich stockbrokers in New York. It was either stockbrokers or businessmen. I can't remember. Joel, you might have to back me up because you just listened to it.
I think
I think they were just like
The higher class.
finance duties.
So, like, did
they
you?
were hitmen, weren't they?
I think in the they were like doing more shady things, but in the world they were like finance bros, something
Mhm.
like that. Something that people can hate easily on, even
Yeah,
before stepping on a dog.
I think the way Alex described them is they were people who acted like they owned like the world or whatever, or is like yeah. And then later we find out that they're like these hitmen
Mhm.
for the people he's trading with, or like competing with in trades.
His business rival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we get a fun little fight scene at the very beginning where you have three guys getting their asses kicked by Alex, who just goes to the gym and fights just because one of them. Did he kick Louis or step on Louis?
Yeah, he stepped on.
And he's like, "Hey, asshole! Like that's my dog." And he's like, "Oh, fuck off." And Alex is like, "Okay," and he beats the hell out of all three of them, and then one of them uses like a wind blast ability, and that's what awakens like the system in it. And we find out that his best friend is and his family have always been a part of the Apocosmos, so he like kind of walks him through, which I figured
So
that would be Joel's favorite character.
what?
His friend
Oh, Leo.
Leo.
Yeah,
Leonardo.
I do love my mages. Uh, man, there's a bunch of different ways to take this conversation. What I was going to ask is, would you take a Rasengan into the chest to have stats and be able to level up?
Oh, I would take one in a heartbeat. If I could awaken a system that would let me explore different parts of a universe, I would take it in a heartbeat. That's part of the reason I love this series. Was
Yeah,
I love the world. Like, yeah, it takes place on Earth, but there's so many like little niche pocket areas. That's what really
I
That's what does it.
I definitely loved how he entered like the Apocrycosmos. So talking about Leo, I do love my mages. I'm currently playing a mage in Diablo right now. But okay, so one thing that got to me is I feel like in this book, The Berserker, the mages, whenever they enter combat, they kind of just become like heal bots.
Mm.
Like, do you get that feeling? Or like they definitely have like these abilities where like I know he like threw out a tornado and fucked up a bunch of like monsters or something.
Mm.
But it tends to lean more towards like conserving your mana to like heal people, which makes sense in like realistic point of view.
Yeah, as realistic as most spellcasters can be, right? So I try to model these kind of battles with an MMO I used to play, and at least the initial levels, like before they got their first class change, um, spellcasters are powerful. They can one-shot kill monsters and stuff like that. But because the way that healing works, like if there are potions, potions heal over time. So it's not something like, oh, 50 HP, there you go, you can continue fighting. Spellcasters have like a very wide range of magic they can before they get their class. So if you have a damage dealer, then it makes sense for the spellcaster to initially be using mostly their healing spells. Once they get like a specialization, the fighter can continue fighting, but maybe the spellcaster can do damage dealing spell, can use damage dealing spells, crowd control spells, or if they get another person who is a healer mostly, they can only be using healing spells, AoE spells, etc. So I think it was because in that part of the story, the value of each MP is worth more in healing rather than damage dealing. That was where my head was at that point.
So
Like I said, it makes sense in a realistic point of view. I I'm interested to get more into the series to see some more mage OPness. um, we have a question from Zeckler. He says, what would you say inspired the series? Or what game would you say inspired the series?
Um, the series. Um, so the system was inspired by Lineage 2. I don't know how the correct pronunciation is. That was a system. But the series in general, um, it's not one specific game because I grew up playing a lot of Japanese RPG. So most of them were very much story driven or character driven. At least the ones I played. Um, it's not that I had something specific in mind. I just wanted to tell a story about someone going through some things, working through them, creating friendships and all that. And I think when I started, so when I discovered Lit RPG, it was through there was a manga, Korean manga
mhm.
called the. I don't know if you have.
Called
If
what?
you,
Sorry. I think you
sorry,
cut out. What
the
was it called?
the gamer.
The
The
gamer.
game.
So yeah, and I was like, man, this is such a great like way of telling a story, like getting levels and all that. And I was thinking, like, at the moment I was writing fantasy, and I was thinking, yeah, but the comic has, sorry, the manga has many things that could be done better, could be expanded. It's things that you cannot do because of how mangas are, right? maybe in a book it would be so great. And I thought like I had the best idea in the world, like I cured cancer. This is going to be a massive success. And then of course I Googled it and I saw that lit RPG is a thing. So this was I think because that manga was taking place in the real world and like touching the supernatural, a world where levels are a thing. I think maybe that's what influenced it more than actual games. Of course, there are like little things, like little quests or little scenes in the series that were influenced by games, but not the whole thing. And it's mostly games from 20 to 15 years ago, mostly Japanese RPGs.
Okay. I mean, what was the MMO you were talking about that you said went with the battles for like mages and stuff?
Lineage
Oh, Lineage.
2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lineage 2. Okay, I think I played. They did like a mobile version of like they brought it back and did a mobile version of it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So I remember
Yeah.
playing something like that or with that title,
At
but
least
I
when I
didn't.
was. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I didn't really get into it. I mean, what Joel and I have really sunk our teeth into, like MMO or like big PvP type games, are like Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14. Like, and I
Uh,
mean, if we're going like with our Joel, I'm about to cut open an old wound. We haven't touched this game in a hot minute. But Smite, Battlegrounds of the Gods, which is a like League of Legends game, but with different with gods of different pantheons, and which goes against why I liked I Am Zeus so much is because for the longest time I played Zeus. That was my character, and then Soul came out, and then I switched over to her, and I never switched back. Anyways,
yeah.
so
So at that as a teenager, there were people who were playing World of Warcraft, and there were people who were playing Lineage, at least in Greece, because there were some like private servers from at that point in time. There were those internet cafes
mhm,
where there were like hundreds of PCs, and you could I don't know. It used to be like play from midnight to 12, so 12 hours for €6, and we would go there, and it was a great time to be alive in my city at least. So yeah, so we used to play Lineage a lot, and then of course Warhammer came out, Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars 2. We tried more things, but it was never the same as your first MMO.
right. Which Joel, what was your first MMO?
Probably World of Warcraft, I would say.
Okay, so for me, not a lot of people. So I would say like RuneScape would be like my first MMO because that's technically an MMO, but like the first one, like you had to download and it had, like a bunch of other stuff to it. Not a lot of people know about this one, but it's called Silk Road. My dad played
Oh,
it.
Silk Road. Yeah, my mother got us on Silk Road. It was such a great game.
My dad played it, and like a lot. And my dad was in the military, so he did a couple of deployments. And anytime he was overseas, that's how I got into World of Warcraft and everything because it was something we could play together while he was over there. And we played Silk Road for his first deployment. And we were having a blast. Like I got to do my spell casting, but I also had like a glaive that was my main weapon, and I had a blast playing that. And then of course we got into World of Warcraft. He went Night Elf, I went Dwarf because shout out to the dwarves. I love dwarves. Lord of the Rings is the reason I love my dwarves so much. Shout out to Gimli. So I fell in love. Those were my first like big like MMO like games, and if I could go back and re-experience those for the very first time, I know
Yeah,
I would fall in love with them all over again.
yeah, man. For the first time, yeah, you're right. If you try them again now, it's so different. No, I mean the games are the same, but we are so different.
Hmm.
I trying to chase that high, of playing an MMORPG and falling in love with it again, and it's just not the same. Growing up sucks so much.
Yeah, it does. I mean, right now, like our big games are we're playing Diablo, and Joel and I will dabble in, or well, Joel will dabble in it. I still play it very actively, Apex Legends, just for my battle royale ness. But we were playing a battle royale that was all magic based, called Spellbreak, and then that company actually got inquired by Blizzard to go work on World of Warcraft, so they shut down the game, and I'm very upset by that.
I'm mostly playing single player games right
We
now.
we normally do
It
that
just,
as well.
it just makes things easier. And there is such a big backlog of games that I want to play. Again, Japanese RPGs though.
Joel, what would you say our backlog of is bigger, books or games?
Jeez.
Yeah,
Honestly,
the fact that we have to
my
think about it.
backlogs for book is pretty huge.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to prepare copies. Prepare yourself for your silver years.
Well, we're gonna have a bunch of stuff. That's why I like doing my physical copies instead of, you know, digital. Like I like digital, but I prefer to have. There's nothing like having the actual physical copy of a book in hand, feeling the page turn. It captures a whole new essence.
I generally do not read ebooks or paperbacks, though I love paperbacks. But at some point, I realized that reading books, so I do audiobooks mostly.
That's
Reading books and collecting books are two different hobbies. And when I got in terms with that, everything makes so much more sense, and
yeah.
it's so much easier right now.
We're
Yeah.
we're predominantly audio listeners and everything, but we're just obviously pushing through and whatnot. I'm getting a call. Give me a second. Joel, take over. I gotta step away for this for a second.
Yeah. So, let me bring up my notes sheet.
So you said you started book two, and there is a scene that
Yeah.
book two.
So I might yell at you for a little bit, but the whenever he sits down to because he needs to get Louis' reincarnation like system. So like the third part for that quest, he sits down with this like storyteller and he gets the story of like what was it, Ren or Renee
The Rhiannon.
Rhiannon? Yeah, that he gets that story off of his chest and it had me crying in the middle of work, and
Did I come back in
I
at the
blame
wrong
you.
time? Damn it, Joel. We're talking about the death. All right. I'm here. Sorry, I'm getting furniture delivered today, and I forgot about it, so I had to take that call real quick to say, hey, I am home, but it'll be about 30 minutes before I'm ready. So, damn it, Joel.
But no,
I,
I do not enjoy crying in the middle of work.
You're
I am not a
welcome.
masochist. I am not Richie.
You're welcome.
yeah.
And I blame both of you.
So it happened to me because as I'm writing it, I am a human and I feel things. And like for this series, I was writing a similar scene in a cafe. Well, that was so awkward.
Mm.
Like I was
See,
trying to look up to not let the liquid fall.
the thing about like I've dealt with a lot of trauma with a lot of certain things. I've been open about my depression and my anxiety and everything, and that's why I like my audiobooks. They're an escape for me. But I also like when my audiobooks have, a like the characters feel human to me. They're not just, you know, people on a page. They actually feel like there's some sort of like humanity behind the words of this person. And Alex is one of those where he feels human. he has his struggles, he has his demons, and it's so damn good. It's so damn good. But the scene that scene broke me. But the scene that broke me even more was when Louis was able to talk for the first time, and then he just apologized to Alex and just saying he's so sorry, it's his fault. And I'm like,
Yeah,
forgotten these things.
that definitely broke me.
so, but let's touch base on happier notes. We don't want to have like an emotional breakdown on the show because I'm already on the verge of one today. It's been a day.
Yeah.
I want to talk about my boy Rory. I want to talk about the dwarf, who also has some emotional trauma, but we're not going to talk about that because, oh, by the way, Joel, heads up for book 3, it's a lot. Because
I figured.
I mean,
it's got Rory on the front cover, so I figured they go through his whole
look how thick it is.
story.
It's so big.
That was a big quest, and I think that was the book I enjoyed most writing because of that quest.
Do you know what that quest reminded me of?
What?
Gave me Hobbit vibes.
Sorry, what?
The Hobbit.
Okay.
Like their quest to go regain the Lonely Mountain, to defeat Smaug and take back the Lonely Mountain.
Remember writing this? At some point, I was like, "Am I writing Hobbit? Is this Hobbit?" That I'm right. So, and I also realized that I don't know if you have read the Drizzt books. And so Drizzt is like a character from the Forgotten Realms in this setting.
Mhm.
And there was a dwarf there who was a king, and he lost his palace, I guess, to a dragon, if I remember correctly. And the companions of anyway, they went and they essentially took it back from a dragon. So I think it is a good story to tell,
It is.
It has been written again, but I just love it. Like a dog fighting for his ancestral home. It's so cool.
There's nothing more like fantasy than going and taking a kingdom back from a dragon. A dragon came in, wiped out everyone, a lot of death, a lot of, destruction, and just raining hellfire or frostfire sometimes, depending on the dragon type. It's so much fun. And I mean, like, look at Skyrim. Skyrim, one of the biggest RPGs of all time for Bethesda, because it was so good. And how many dragons are in that game? When they came out with expansions, how many more dragons did they add? Different types of dragons. Dragons are just fun. Who doesn't want to deal with a big ass dragon? Especially when you're just a tiny little man who's built like a powerhouse. God, I love Rory. He's my boy. Yes. I love dwarves.
I like it. It's really nice writing characters or reading about characters, which I guess makes sense because we write what we like to read. Characters who are like very tough, but there are certain battles that if you push them, they become very, very, very soft. And it's so much fun to write and read about these characters.
If Rory had his own like spin-off series, I would buy that in a heartbeat without even reading anything into it. If it just said, "Hey, Rory from Apocosmos, here's his series," I would read it. I would buy it in a heartbeat, and I would go all out with that.
Yeah, and then series. So I wanted to write the continuation. I don't want to spoil too much for Joel. So I wanted to write the continuation of the story of what happens after the last book, and which would be anyway. I will tell you later. Because I cannot say this without things. There was another thought about writing a story. I think in the 5th book or somewhere there is the CEO of the dark energy marketplace, who is like this super powerful guy who is like filthy rich and essentially, the richest person in the Apokosmos is the strongest one, and like how he came to that. Yeah, but there's only so much time. Yeah.
I've just expected that my backlog is forever going to be massive, and I'm never going to get through all of these, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that is, I think that is the best approach because for some time I was reading books of author friends, and as I meet more people, there are more books that I need to read, and I just read, the first book of their most successful series, and that's it, just so that I can, because I was feeling bad. Like also, there were people, oh, I read your book, it was great, and I'm like. Well, now I feel bad because I haven't read your book yet. At some point, it became too much. And I was like, you know what? I will just read Pratchett, and because I can't anymore. Like
I,
it's
I'm
impossible.
I'm kind of the same way because it's like there's so many books that I'm like looking forward to. It's like when they drop, I have to decide, okay, which one am I gonna do? Like one of the big things for me is the third audio book for Tokens and Towers by Harmon Cooper is supposed to come out at some point next month. But also on the 1st of September during Dragon Con, Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 6 drops on Audible. And it's like, okay, if Harmon releases this book super late, I have to power through it as quickly as possible just so I'm ready for Dungeon Crawler Carl. Because I know the car ride back from Atlanta all the way back to where Joel and I live, we're going to be listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl. There's no argument there. That's just what's happening.
The thing is, I already read it.
Oh, same. I've already finished it. But that's the thing. With Jeff Hayes, it's an experience, and that's what you go for. That's what the audiobooks are for. It's not just the words the author put, but the narrator putting their heart and soul. And let me tell you, Jeff puts his heart and soul into Dungeon Crawler Carl and everything else. So, oh my God. But
Yeah.
I just had to turn down a review copy. Like, someone was talking about a review, like, hey, we're doing like review copies of an audiobook like giveaway, and it's like I would love to enter this because this book sounds right up my alley, but I have 4 books of review copies that are ahead of this that I'm trying to finish through one series, and then I have one of my author friends who just dropped his newest book that I have to power through, and it's like, bye Zeckler, have a good day, buddy. So Zeckler's leaving the chat. He's always here for.
Ciao.
So, but it's just like, oh my God, I have so many books to read, and I no time because I just ordered a new book that will be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. And then, of course, Jez Caggio, Don Chapman, Kevin Sinclair, and Lars McMuller are dropping the Artem series here in a few weeks. Anyways, so Dimitrios, how are you? You having a good day today?
Yeah. It's a good day. I woke up late because yesterday was bicycling day, and I took a nap really late, and that messed my whole sleeping schedule. Gym, right, and now this. So I can't complain really.
Well, I do
I
want
got
I do want to say I'm very glad we got you on the show. You've been one of the guests I've been wanting to get on the show for a very long time. Like since we started doing this and I read Apokosmos Book 1 Berserker, I was like, oh, I want to talk to Dimitrios about this at some point. This is going to be one of the shows I really want to do. And I was like, you know what? When we finally connected on Twitter, because Stephen Landry was like, oh, just message him, dude. He's a good guy. Just message him. I was like, I'll do it. Anxiety averted.
Thank you.
So,
Keeping is often, yeah, right?
Stephen Landry is a great guy. He is one of my favorite people, and I'm actually doing a few projects with him right now that are just they're going to be fun. They're going to be really fun. So, but we are coming towards the end of our show, so we'll do our final thoughts segment, and then we do a fun little thing of, hey, what you been reading? So, Joel, any final thoughts other than yelling at me for giving you emotional trauma?
Yeah, if you are a Richie and you love emotional trauma, this book's gonna be amazing. If you love if you love the nostalgia of D&D and just like the Tolkien and the mythology and all that stuff, you're gonna love this series. So don't sleep on it. Give it a try. It's amazing. Thank you, Richie.
Thank you.
What's your thoughts?
Obviously, I'm just pretty much going to reiterate what Joel says. I cannot express this enough. Do not sleep on this series. This series is absolutely fantastic, and it is worth listening to. And if you enjoy harem, like, you know, a little bit of harem and spiciness, check out I Am Zeus. It's really, really good. If you can get back, like, I mean, it's not like, you know, super, super, like, sex heavy. Like, there's just a few scenes in there. But, I mean, overall, just learning about Zeus's character as he's pretty much telling this story to a reporter in Texas, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And there's one god I have not seen yet, and I'm hoping they show up. But if they don't, I won't be too mad.
Who is
Thanatos.
okay?
Thanatos was one of my other mains in Smite, and I actually love, you know, that pretty much the hand of death. So one of my favorite gods to really like learn about lore and everything for. So they show up in any books. I mean, that's what I thought when I looked at Blightleech, Ben's book. I was like, is that Thanatos on the front cover? And then I was like, oh no, it's Cain Zariah. Who the hell is Cain Zariah? We're reading this. This is gonna be good.
Thanatos is the Greek word for death, by the way.
What's that?
Thanatos is the Greek word for death.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did
The more
not
you
know
know.
that. Well, there's a little lesson for us today. So when I play Smite now and they're like, hey, who are you going to play? I'm just going to play Death. Okay.
Yeah.
The more you know. So, Dimitrios, do you have any final thoughts you want to share on, you know, Apocosmos or any of your other books? Because you have Physics of the Apocalypse, which book 3 is coming out soon, right?
I hope I am about 35-40% done with it. I mean, writing it, so it's progressing good. It is, man, like if you got emotional with the Apocosmos, like I dread the moment that I have to write a specific scene in this series because it is so tough. And I like reading and writing happy books, but then because I outline my books, once I outline them and I see, man, this is not happy at all. I mean, this and all that, but it is so hard to get there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe give it a try. I love the Pokosmos, but you know, as we grow, authors and people in general, you know, our experiences change us and hopefully make us better. So I hope that this is portrayed in the books that that I write as well. And if you like, you know, friendship stories and all that, I think if you enjoyed, let's say, the friendship of Alex and Leo and Rory in the book, in the Apocosmos, perhaps you will enjoy a little more light-hearted, let's say, friendship in the new series, in the Physics of the Apocalypse.
It's good. Plus, when I first saw it and I
Say
saw that
less.
dragon, that dragon on the cover of book 1 of Physics of the Apocalypse, that's what sold me. And then obviously and that was before I saw who the author was. And I was like, oh, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this. This is good.
You gotta have a try. So, otherwise,
Richard's-
you know, what's the point?
But
We're making things up.
Yeah.
Just with the dragon.
we're just having fun. So we'll get into our final little section of, hey, what you been reading? Dimitrios, do you want to go first and give us a little snippet of what you've been listening to or reading? Because it goes for audiobooks as well, obviously.
Yeah. So, like I said, at some point I realized that I'm never going to catch up or read the books of all the people that I like, friends or not. So I just started Lies of Locke Lamora. The Lies of Locke Lamora. It's a fantasy, gritty fantasy series, I guess, about a rogue about a guy who is too good in stealing things for his own good. Um, that's it really. I try so in general I try to disconnect a little bit while I'm wrapping up this series and I'm preparing the next one in my head. I don't want to have too many influences from other lit RPG while I'm creating the next story. Yeah, you got me a little bit off guard here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off guard. Joel,
Yeah,
I'm afraid to see what this list is because you haven't been on the show for like the past month and a
I
half.
yeah
So just paraphrase.
I went on a 4th of July trip, so I wasn't on the 4th of July episode, and then before that, I just hadn't been around. So,
Well, that one was a
uh,
cold read with Stephen Landry, so that was just a me and him thing.
yeah. So I've been listening to Snake's Rule by Stephen Arnett. Finished that. Apocosmos by Dennis Vanderkerken. We Love Fluff. He Fights with Monsters, Book 9. Defiance of the Fall, Book 9. The Chrysalis series. System Misinterpret. 10th Realm. All caught up on those. Upgrade Apocalypse I started listening to. Irrelevant Jack, I finished that series. Rich pointed me to that one. It was pretty good.
Which one?
Irrelevant Jack.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Justin Thomas James and Sound Theater. I missed which one you said, and it's because I was looking at my list and I was like, okay, I gotta paraphrase this real quick. But yeah, no, those are some damn good additions.
Stitch World series. I finished that. Like I said, I haven't been on the podcast forever. Path of Ascension Book 3 came out. Primal Hunter Book 5 came out. Shattered Soul, which is the Ripple system, came out. I finished Waybound. That's a series that's finally done. I say that like it's not a good series. It's an amazing series. Cradle's amazing series. All the Skills, Dungeon Core Online Book 4 came out. That was good. The Captain, which was Will Wright's other series. I read that. It was good. Dragon Seed. Rich has been wanting me to get into what's that series called?
Alchemy Online.
Yeah, Alchemy Online. Other than that, Into the Void I've been reading, and Dungeon Crawler Carl. I read that. But yeah, that's a bunch of series that I just powered through since last time I've been on the show. So yeah, Rich, what you been listening to or reading?
That's a heavy question, obviously. Okay, so I powered through the first 3 books of Alchemy Online, and I'm actually getting ready to start book 4, which is Warsinger. I picked up End of the World by Aaron Oster. It's his new series. And also I picked up The Guy Who Accidentally Started the Apocalypse by Mr. David Bushman, because shout out to Dave. We love you, Dave. So I'm doing those. I'm currently reading Pop Smoke by Stephen Landry. And I'm just trying to think of what all I haven't actually been through a lot of books since the last episode. So I'm trying to think of Slicing Men, which is the newest book in the Good Guy series by Eric Euclid. I finally finished He Who Fights with Monsters Book 2, so that way Joel would get off my back. Yeah, I think that's... Oh, and A Summoner Awakens Origins, a deck-building lit RPG, which is narrated by Mr. Jeff Hayes, and it's from Aethon Audiobook, or Aethon Publishing. And that was actually really fun. It was weird hearing Jeff Hayes do an accent for almost the entire book, though. I wasn't really expecting that, but it was really good. So other than that, I think that's really it. Oh, and Kevin Sinclair's the Rise of Ashbab, which is a part of his the Artem universe. I was reading that on Royal Road, and oh my gosh, I cannot wait for that entire series to come out, which Joel is getting me for my birthday. So shout out to Joel. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Anyways, so this has been Stats on Stats. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, and Dimitrios, thank you for joining us. It has been a very fun episode.
Thank you for having me.
So we do have our schedule for the next few weeks. This might be Joel's first time hearing this schedule. So coming up,
I have an idea of what we're doing.
Yeah, a little bit of an idea. So we have Joshua Mason on the episode 2 weeks from today on the 31st of the month, where we will talk 8-Bit Bastards. Then on the 14th, we will be having David Bushman to talk about the guy who accidentally started the apocalypse. And then the very next week after that, this episode's been a long time coming, but we have Jeff Hayes from Soundbooth Theater joining us so we can discuss Dungeon Crawler Carl, Eye of the Bedlam Bride, to get ready to promote that audiobook. So we are damn excited for that one. But this has been Stats on Stats, where we discuss everything Lit RPG, Dungeon Core, Game Lit, and onwards. But I hope you all have a wonderful evening and enjoy your Monday.